Which is what if Naruto was chosen by 12 angelic beauties to become their eternal harem king. Part 1. Hokage Monument. Naruto sat atop of Mount Hokage, his feet dangling over the edge of the sculpted face of the Yondaime. This particular spot had always been a source of comfort to the young shinobi. Whenever he had been hurt, be it by the villagers, his so-called friends, or even his own teammates and sensei, he came here to calm his spirit and help heal his heart. Today had been particularly hard on the young Jinchuriki. Today was the inauguration of the Godime Hokage and everyone had come out to see her. Tsunade had given Naruto a special gaze and a wink to signify that she indeed thanked him for all he had done for her. Naruto had proven himself to be a hero yet again. First, he proved it on his team's mission in Wave Country when he stood tall against Zabuza and Haku. Next, he had held off the dreaded Orochimaru in the Forest of Death in an attempt to save his teammates, only to have what little control he had crippled by a strange seal applied by the evil Sannin. Even after all that, he went on to defeat Kiba Inuzuka in fair combat, delivering some justice for himself and a dear friend. He then went on to swear vengeance and reap it against a genin that even Sasuke couldn't have beaten. Directly after that, Naruto fought toe-to-toe with and defeated his fellow demon container, Gaara. After recovering from both his injuries and from the loss of the Sandaime, he and Jiraiya, his new teacher, set out to find the slug princess Tsunade to become their next Hokage, during which, he mastered the Rasengan, a jutsu thought to have been lost with its creator, the Yondaime. With it, he helped to drive away Orochimaru and his assistant Kabuto and rescued Tsunade from herself. He had indeed accomplished more than even a small handful of shinobi could lay claim to over the duration of their careers in such a short time, but this meant little to the people he wanted acknowledgement from, like his teammates, sensei, and peers. They all still thought of him as a pathetic clown, not worth looking at or of even the most basic of courtesies and politeness. They knew nothing about him, but presumed to know everything. Even after his kunoichi teammate and longtime crush, Sakura, had been told that Naruto was the one who rescued her from Gaara, she still vehemently denied it and even took it out on Naruto himself, saying that he had no right to butt in on Sasuke's fight. She then hit him like she usually did, but this blow seemed to pierce his fragile heart, which brings us here to this hallowed ground. Unknown to anyone, even the Ichirakus, Ruruka, and now Jiraiya, Tsunade and her assistant Shizune, who had become like family to him, knew about this spot's real significance, its real meaning to the young shinobi. Only Hana Inuzuka and the late Sandaime, who cast a special genjutsu over it to help Naruto protect it, knew about it. It was a series of seals that generated the illusion, operated by blood seal that was keyed to only open for Naruto himself. Hana called it the Garden of Tears. Naruto reflected on this hauntingly beautiful name as he gazes off slightly to the right. The secluded part of the monument held a small patch of flowers that were all underneath a small sakura tree. Under this tree in this beautiful patch of flowers, there stood 12 markers with 12 names on them. Each one held a vast array of both happy and painful memories attached to them as he looked over to the first marker, which had the name, Yuki, engraved on it. Flashback. He remembered the day he first saw her when he was merely 7 years old. He had wandered into the Forest of Death after evading a hostile crowd that chased him in there, but lacked the nerve to pursue him any further. He ventured further and further into the dangerous area until he was attacked by a wild beast that lived there. Just before he was dinner, another creature snagged him and dragged him up into the upper canopy of the forest, where it was slightly safer. Naruto opened his eyes and saw that a massive white snake had coiled around him, looking at him with curiosity. "Ah, hey, how's it going?" he chuckled out nervously. The snake seemed to study him closely, its tongue flicking over him and getting his scent. The snake then took off with him through the trees at a rapid clip and delivered him to an area outside of the forest. Naruto was in shock. This snake was different from the other animals in that whacked-out forest. The very next day, he wandered inside again and managed to find it lounging in the sun. He approached the snake carefully and let her get his scent. After she did, she coiled around him gently and cuddled him, much to his amusement and joy. She became a friend to him. He gave her the name Yuki, due to her beautiful snow-white scales. His happiness wasn't meant to last, as the Chunin exams were now in progress. He was still inside the forest when a team of shinobi happened upon him and attacked him. Yuki came to his rescue and shielded him from a fire jutsu, but it cost her life. Naruto had somehow managed to get her over to his favorite spot and buried her, placing her marker at the base of a cherry tree. Flashback end. He missed her very much, even thought they were together for such a short amount of time. It was one of the reasons why he hated fire jutsu and Sasuke's almost exclusive use of them. His gaze wandered to another marker, this one marked, Ran. Another flashback. Naruto was given a pet to help him cope with how lonely he was all the time, a small goldfish that he named Ran, after a water lily that he saw earlier and that the fish had the same color. He put her into a bowl and kept her close to his bedside as he poured out his heart and soul to her. "Ah, it's not like you can really understand me, but if I just pretend that you can, it makes everything not hurt so much." He confided in her one day as he left to go and grab some fish food for her. Unfortunately, he was always subject to angry people coming into his small apartment and raiding it. They found Ran's fishbowl and got a nasty idea. They poured massive amounts of salt into the water, strangling and killing Ran. When Naruto returned with her food, his heart broke. He put her in a small wooden box that he scavenged from a flower shop and buried her at his special place. "So you can still listen to me," he whispered as he carried himself home. End. Those small one-sided conversations may have made him look like a loon, but they meant the world to the lonely boy. He found that his memories just couldn't be suppressed as his gaze fell upon a third maker, marked, Ayumi. Again, you know the drill. During a New Year's festival that he managed to sneak into, he won a ring toss game and won a prize, a small turtle. Upon thinking of a name for his new companion, he just watched her plod around in a bowl he filled with half sand and water. Finally, it came to the 8-year-old. "Aha, Ayumi-chan," he declared as he paraded around his small apartment, holding him new friend aloft proudly. He brought her wherever he could, even to the academy. There, she served as a focus for him, helping him concentrate and actually do better for a short time. His upward rise wasn't unnoticed by his peers, especially one Sasuke Uchiha and his pack of fangirls. He didn't like the fact the dead last was improving at a rapid pace and carried himself so differently, and he sought out the reason why. He found out that it was because he believed his pet turtle was a sort of good luck charm. As a malicious prank, he waited until classes were over and tripped Naruto outside of the classroom, causing him to drop Ayumi on the floor. Sasuke was quick to snatch her away and dangled the helpless turtle in front of Naruto's face. "What's the matter, Dobi?" he mocked as he flung the small turtle to the ground, expecting a splat, but her hard shell prevented what he wanted. In a fit of rage, he stomped on her, crushing her and killing her before Naruto's eyes. They all stayed just long enough to get a look at the despair on his face as they laughed at and taunted him. Naruto scraped up what was left of her and managed to cut class long enough to head out to what was becoming a small private graveyard that was coming to be known as the Garden of Tears. There, he buried her next to the others that had brought him brief periods of joy and happiness. Iruka saw what had happened and allowed him to cut class, just this once. The loss of a close friend was devastating, and to the boy who had no one, he would never be quite the same again. End. Ayumi was a good companion. She made him feel more normal. He'd still never forgiven Sasuke or Sakura for that to this day. Once again, he was dragged back into his vault of memories as his eyes unconsciously fell upon the next marker, Tamami. Here we go again. While wandering the streets one night in the rain, Naruto heard a meow coming from an alleyway. His natural curiosity getting to him, he went to investigate. After a moment of searching, he found the source of the noise, a small cat. The kitten walked up to him and brushed against his leg, asking to be picked up. Naruto obliged and took her home with him after he saw that she had no collar. On the way home, he was thinking of a name as he passed a jewelry store. Then, he looked into her eyes and saw that they were a beautiful teal color. He stopped and looked at the window display and saw a jewel of the same color, then it hit him. The perfect name for her. Tamami. Yeah. Come on, Tamami-chan. We're goin' home. Naruto crowed as they marched off to his apartment. Over the next few weeks, the cat had become completely comfortable around the blonde boy as he constantly talked to her as if she were human, laughing and playing with her. She wound up following him everywhere, even to the academy. During his lunch breaks, he'd always be seen with her sitting on his lap, purring in contentment. Sadly, one day as he was on his way to school, he was running a bit late, so Tamami was running to catch up with him since he was rather fast for a human. A horse-drawn cart that barely missed him had run over her. She died almost instantly. In following with a sad tradition that was developing with all of his pets thus far, he buried her lovingly in the Garden of Tears. And, again, another friend, gone. I wish you were still with me. He thought sadly as his couldn't stop himself from looking at the next marker, Midori. Man, more to go. Naruto's apartment had just been trashed again and he was still in the process of repairing and repainting it when he heard a small clatter from inside his apartment one night. He got up from his bed, wielding a kunai that Sarutobi had given to him, and searched out the cause of the noise. Hearing it again, he dashed into his kitchen, where his paint cans were, to find that they were knocked over and saw small paw prints of green paint leading up to his fridge. Peering inside, he saw a small tanuki, covered in green paint, eating some leftover noodles. Instead of getting angry, he almost laughed himself sick. He had too much of a heart to kick the small creature out, so he made a makeshift bed for her and cleaned her up. He noted that she was surprisingly calm about the whole thing. When he was finally finished, he saw that she had a spot of green paint on her coat that would not come off, but it gave him an inspiration for a name. It's time for bed. Nay, Midori-chan. He winked at the tanuki, who seemed pleased to stay with him as it crawled under his covers. Naruto sighed. I guess you can sleep in the bed for tonight. I just gave you a bath, after all. Again, Naruto had a companion that helped him stave off his loneliness, and again the villagers were angry with this development. Midori was a highly curious and adventurous little tanuki who would go wherever he went. She also had a habit of trying to snag a nibble of whatever Naruto was eating, too. That habit became her doom. A couple of merchants that wanted Naruto gone pretty badly had gotten hold of a particularly nasty pathogen and shadowed him to the Ichiraku ramen stand. Once there, they distracted the stand owners and Naruto, dumping the poison into his food. Midori snagged a bite of pork while Naruto got one too, but they both immediately fell ill. Tsuki and Ayame wasted no time in taking them to the hospital and alerted the Sandaime, who forced them to work on Naruto and fetch an Inuzuka vet to help out Midori. Luckily for Naruto, a perk of having the Kyuubi sealed inside of him was that he had an insane immune system and an inhuman resistance to any and all poisons. This virulent poison was no match for it. Midori, on the other hand, she didn't have his strength. As he got over the effects of the poison, he rushed out of the hospital and over to the vet clinic. There he was met with a friendly Inuzuka named Hana who was trying to treat Midori, but she had some terrible news for him. Naruto-kun, I'm sorry. She didn't make it. The vet informed him sadly. Naruto moved past her without a word and scooped her body up. The Sandaime put a hand on his shoulder and the two flickered away to his special place and lifted the genjutsu that protected it. Then, Naruto gave her a silent funeral, Sarutobi performing a small Doden jutsu that opened a small hole in the ground and buried her gently. From there, the old Hokage brought the heartbroken boy home. And, again, Midori held a very special place in his heart, as did the others. He later went back to the vet clinic and thanked Hana for what she tried to do for Midori from the bottom of his heart. As he left, she sighed as her heart went out to him. Truly, the gods seemed to hate this innocent boy. I didn't think that they could be this cruel. She mused sadly as he left, but he overheard her. There were more deaths of his beloved friends, more sad and heart-shredding separations. There was Nana, a puppy he found and took in. Ruru, a small frog that had hopped into his apartment one rainy day. Mika, a rabbit that he freed from a trap and nursed back to health. Momo, a small monkey that became attached to him during a small hike. Tsubasa, a parakeet that had hurt its wing and he helped heal it. Kurumi, a hamster that had escaped from someone's cage but stayed with him for some odd reason. But the one that hit him the hardest was fairly recent and made him hate most of his classmates, especially Sasuke and Kiba, driving him to the very brink of hating the village as a whole. Akane. Sometimes, I can still feel you with me. Naruto cried inwardly, a few tears making their way down his face. If all of this happened to you, you'd start to question if there was a god, too. It was in the summer before his final year in the academy and he was training near his special spot on Mount Hokage when he heard a whine coming from a bush near where he was resting after a grueling training session. Upon further inspection, he found that it was a young fox that was making the sounds and its front leg was injured. Shish. Hey, I won't hurt you. He tried to soothe the young vixen as he tried to reach out to her, but she was distrustful of humans. She clamped down on his hand, but Naruto didn't jerk away. It hurt, because she had some really sharp teeth, but he held firm and held back his pain. See, I promise I won't hurt you and I never break a promise. She told the golden-coated vixen. She could see that he truly meant no harm, for she relented and let go. Feeling a tad guilty, she licked the wound she gave him to make him feel better. He responded by tearing off a piece of his shirt and soaked it with his drinking water, wrapping it around her wound. He then stood up and went to sit on top of the Yondaime's head to rest a bit. She followed him out there and sat beside him, nudging him slightly to announce her presence. They felt a sort of connection to each other that transcended all, just like with all of his other companions. Beautiful sunset, ain't it? He asked, getting a yip in reply. She could feel that something was different about this human, like he was more fox than human with his scent. His scent and feel were both warm and inviting, she just couldn't tear herself away as he patted her on the head lightly and scratched just behind her ears, causing her to move closer. You know, I need to think of a name for you. Mine's Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki. He introduced himself as he continued to think of a name while looking into the sunset. It was breathtaking. It was a symphony of scarlet hues on a grand backdrop and it was while he thought of the perfect name for her. Akane, of the Scarlet Clouds. A beautiful name, nay. He said aloud, grinning at her with a sidelong glance. From that moment on, they were inseparable. Her presence seemed to agitate the villagers even more than usual, but he didn't care and neither did she. She followed him everywhere and Iruka even allowed him to bring her to the academy as a nin animal. Many of the faculty members were outraged by this, but the Hokage silenced them quickly. Iruka had his own reasons for allowing it. He knew all too well the kind of life Naruto had led, and he needed all the friends he could get, even if they weren't human. The vixen seemed to be a calming influence on him, as the pranks stopped and he quieted down. He was finally starting to recover from his heartbreak from all those previous tragedies that seemed to follow him around. The villagers took his change as a sign that he was gearing up for something big and sought to stop him before something happened. They couldn't do anything to him without bringing the Hokage down upon them, so they got their children to do their dirty work for them. It was the day of the Kyuubi festival and his 12th birthday. He had long since stopped desiring a big birthday party thrown for him with lots of presents like he'd seen with all of the other kids. Now, he just wanted to be left in peace. This night, however, proved that the village was determined to never allow him a moment's peace or a shred of happiness. He had gotten a message to come to a party at the academy. He figured that it couldn't hurt to check it out, but he also let his guard down. He arrived at the school with Akane right behind him. It was dark and no one was around. I don't like this, Akane-chan. Let's go. He told her, but they turned to leave too late as he felt a blow hit him from behind. The last thing he heard before he lost consciousness was the sound of a pain-filled yelp from Akane. He woke up to being slapped across the face by someone whose face was shrouded by the dark. He opened up an eye to see people standing around him, mostly adults, but with kids his age around. He could tell who two of these people were. One had eyes that were an onyx black and the other had a dog perched atop his head, and both had stances that screamed of arrogance. Sasuke Tem, Kiba Tem. What the hell is going on here? Where's Akane-chan? He thought frantically. Where's Akane-chan? What did you do to her? Naruto snarled at them, only making them smirk. That little fox bitch. I'll turn it into a pelt and wipe my with it. I'll give it back to you, of course. Maybe this will teach you your place, Dobi. Kiba laughed in his face as Sasuke stabbed her with a kunai right in her chest, killing her slowly. The last thing she saw was Naruto screaming frantically for them to stop and calling for help. Naruto felt weak and useless. No, not again. Please no. The gods can't be this cruel. He cried openly as he tried to crawl over to her body, only for Kiba to have Akamaru snatch her from his reach. Kiba and Sasuke, along with a few of his other classmates, teachers and some of the parents, began to advance on him until a trio of large hounds blocked their path, a young woman in a Chunin vest and Inuzuka clan markings behind them, ready to fight to protect the boy. If you want to get at this boy, you'll have to go through me. Hana snarled, her hounds growling at the crowd. Sis, what the hell are you doing? Kiba whined. Kiba, I'll only ask you once. Return the fox to Naruto-kun and go home. Mom and I will deal with you and Akamaru later. She told him with cold fury. Akamaru knew better than to argue with an alpha, so Akane's body was returned to Naruto, who clutched her while he cried his eyes out. Akamaru, why'd you do that? Kiba yelled at his nin dog, running at Naruto to get the fox back only to receive a powerful backhanded blow from his elder sister. Hana glared at him and told him to go home, and he obeyed her reluctantly, only pausing long enough to give Naruto a dirty look. She then turned a sad gaze at the young boy whose world was once again falling apart. She backed up slowly to him, keeping the hostile crowd in sight as she grasped his shoulder. Once she had hold of his shoulder, she teleported them both away from the area, leaving an angry crowd to be dealt with by the Hokage and his Anbu. They flickered into the area where the Genjutsu key was located, Naruto biting his thumb for the blood he needed to release the seal protecting his special place. The woods before them shimmered and revealed a beautiful meadow that had a gorgeous cherry blossom tree in the middle of it, a circle of markers around it. The way the moonlight was hitting it gave it a magical quality. This is so beautiful. Hana breathed, spellbound. Naruto used a small Doden jutsu that the Sandame taught him to open a small hole in the ground. Wrapping Akane lovingly in his jacket, he lowered her into the hole and with another small set of hand seals, he slowly closed up the grave and walked away. Hana felt her heart break as she walked out behind him, Naruto reactivating the genjutsu. Akane-chan, I'll never forget you or the others. I'll always love you all. He murmured as Hana helped him home. Man, I feel depressed. A few tears came unbidden as he stood up. This trip usually made him feel better, but he wasn't. If anything, he was now angry. He stood and said a silent prayer as he walked away. He looked up to the sky, wondering if his beloved friends saw all that he had accomplished and if they would be proud of him. Elsewhere, unknown to our blonde hero, somebody was watching him. She had been watching him for years. She cried for his pain, she smiled at his proudest moments. Naruto Uzumaki, your soul is pure and spirit strong and brave. You loved them and saw them not as your pets, but as companions and equals for your heart to be broken so by their passing. You have endured evils that would have driven Propel twice your age and experience into madness, but came out of it stronger than ever before. You even saved a fellow Jinchuriki from himself and your selfish teammates from death at the risk of your own life. You, more than anyone, can lead this troubled world into the peace that had eluded it for so long. You, more than anyone I've ever seen, have proven yourself worthy of a guardian angel to help you along your way. I have just the candidates for the job. The woman stated with a proud smile. She was exceptionally beautiful with long purple hair, a flowing white gown and holding a glowing staff. She was indeed proud of the boy and the immeasurable promise he showed and the unconditional love he was capable of. Behind the woman, there were several girls there in robes, with halos and wings. The first three stepped forward. One had long red hair, the second hair aquamarine hair that was done up on the back with a clip. The third was shorter than the other two, her brown hair done up in a two-bow. We are ready, Megami-sama. The tall red-haired girl stated. I shall get things started, then. The now identified Megami-sama replied as she disappeared in a flash of white light. Konoha streets. Naruto took his time in getting back to his apartment. He simply saw no need to rush, even thought it was raining. He could see others under umbrella and huddling under awnings and inside shops as they waited for the rain to pass, but didn't really care. It's not like anyone was waiting for him, right? As Naruto was passing through one of lesser tread paths, he decided to stop and dry off a bit under an awning. As he crouched down, he sighed as reflected on his day thus far. Man, I hate to sound like the Tem, but my life is just so. He thought before someone finished for him. Unlucky. A voice called out from nearby. The voice's close proximity rattled him as he whipped out a kunai from his sleeve and slipped into a defensive posture. Next to him was a table with a crystal ball and cards, with a cloaked woman sitting there. What the hell? She wasn't there before, he thought as he took in this new person. Your teammates treat you as a nuisance. Your sensei treats you like a burden and your peers think of you as a pathetic clown. The villagers believe you to be a vile beast. She stated. Naruto was really not liking this. The truth was bad enough, but a stranger popping up out of nowhere and telling him the obvious was really grating on him. Thanks a lot, Captain Obvious. Like I really needed to hear that after the day I've had, especially from some insane stalker. Naruto muttered sarcastically. I can see everything without moving from this spot. Your female teammate cannot accept the truth that you rescued her from Suna's Jinchuriki and grew quite violent with you. I know that since the Sandaime died, your stipend has been completely cut off and with no missions, you are hard put to even eat. Even the Godime is powerless to help you right now and the Toad Sage is currently away on business. She told him as fact. What the hell? Who are you? How do you know these things about me? Naruto demanded. This wasn't funny in the first place, but now his hackles were beginning to rise. Something was very wrong here. Your life has been harsh and sad. She told him suddenly, snapping him out of his anger, but back into his depression. The woman saw this. She drew a card from the table and held it up. But, things will change. Luck will come, she declared. Luck, right. And tomorrow I'll be Hokage. He retorted and shook his head. He turned to run off, but the woman managed to slip a scroll into his pocket. It glowed with a blue light for only a brief moment. She held up the card she had been handling and flipped it over to reveal an angel. From now on, Naruto-kun, luck will come to you. She said as she vanished in a flash of light, leaving no trace of her ever being there. Naruto's apartment complex. Naruto had been roof hopping across town as the rain let up, enabling him to pick up the pace in getting home to dry off and maybe take a bath if the plumbing was still working. Nearby he saw Tora the cat, escaping from another genin team. He quickly snatched the cat and hid it in his jacket. The team that was tracking him passed them by and he felt that it was safe for him to go. The cat gave him a grateful meow as he scampered off, Naruto doing the same. Naruto finally reached his apartment and removed his wet jacket and sandals, plopping down in his room as he thought of what had happened that day. He quickly decided to take a bath to warm up, so he stripped down and hopped in. Thankfully, the water was warm. Luck, huh, like that'll ever happen, he muttered as he relaxed into his bath. As he relaxed, the scroll that had been slipped into his pocket fell out and unfurled on his floor. A circular pattern, lined with 12 different colors and lines from each leading into a small central circle and a central diamond design appeared on it. The seal began to glow with a gentle blue light, which was getting stronger by the second. Naruto yawned as he stepped out of the tub with a towel around his waist, rummaging through his fridge for something to drink. He found a bottle of water and took a quick tug on it, putting it back and was about to head back into his room, but the light to the common area was on. That's weird. I thought I turned that off. He wondered aloud as he palmed a kunai and tread cautiously toward the front of the house to see what was going on. Once he got there, he was greeted by the sight of 3 girls around and near his age. The first had long red hair that was done up in a very loose ponytail and had red eyes. The second had bluish-green hair that was done up in the back. The way it was done reminded him of that psycho exam proctor. The third had light brown hair with her bands framing her face, her hair done up in bow on each side. Her face oddly reminded him faintly of a hamster. "Hi there." The green-haired girl greeted cheerfully. "Good evening, Nano." The shorter brown-haired girl greeted him in the same manner. "I'm sorry. We arrived while you were bathing." The taller redhead apologized, bowing slightly, but showed some cleavage, making him flush brightly. "Oh, what's up?" Naruto replied, scratching the back of his head sheepishly before realizing what was happening. "Whoa, hold up a sec. What the hell are you doing in here? Who the hell are you?" Naruto yelled. The girls sat and stared at him for a moment before they huddled together. This must be such a shock for him. The redhead told the others. "I don't blame him. That's natural for this kind of situation." The green-haired girl agreed. "He looks so familiar. I just don't know why." The brown-haired girl. You're right. He looks familiar to me, too." The redhead replied. "Me too. This is weird." The green-haired girl added. "Excuse me. I'm still here." Naruto deadpanned. The three girls turned and faced him again. The middle girl performed a three-fingered bow, very formal. "How do you do? My name is Ran." She introduced herself. "My name's Tsubasa." "Hi there," Tsubasa said with a wink. "I'm Kurumi, Nano." She greeted, but her stomach rumbled. "I wish you something sweet, though," she moaned. Naruto looked like he was about to blow a fuse trying to figure this out. "Wait, who are you all? Come on, joke's over," he said. Ran fielded this question. "Well, we're guardian angels. We've been sent by the goddess to bring you good luck," she explained to him. "Well, now that we explained who we are, don't you think you should introduce yourself?" Tsubasa requested. The frankness of the request caught him off guard, but he answered her nonetheless. "My name's Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki." He introduced himself. "What do you do for a living? Where are your parents?" Tsubasa asked. "Well, I'm a shinobi and I'm an orphan," he replied. The look on his face made Tsubasa regret asking that question. "Do you have girlfriend?" Kurumi asked. "No. What girl in her right mind would want anything to do with me?" was the curt reply. All three winced at the acid in his tone. They looked the 13-year-old shinobi over carefully. "I don't see why they wouldn't. You're kinda cute," Tsubasa told him. "MMMHMM." Kurumi agreed. Now girls. Focus." Ran lightly chided. Come on, Ran. You don't find him a little cute?" Tsubasa teased. "Well, well, sort of." She stammered out. "Oi, I still wanna know how you got in here." Naruto called out. He went unheard as Tsubasa stood up and clapped her hands twice. "All right now, let's get started." "Started on what?" Naruto asked warily. "Why, helping you of course." Ran answered with a smile. "We'll start by cleaning this room," she added, taking in the lived-in condition of his apartment. The girls quickly divided the tasks. Tsubasa offered to clean the room up. Kurumi left to take care of the laundry and Ran announced that she would cook dinner. All three of them, at the same time, puffed into smoke, and when it cleared, they all had on aprons and bandanas in their hair. "What the?" he exclaimed as he accidentally let his towel drop, letting the secret out, so to speak. All three girls got a real good look at mini Naruto, stunned by the sight. Naruto, however, passed out in embarrassment from having his manhood exposed suddenly in front of these attractive girls. Slowly, Naruto was coming back around as the world came back into focus. He sat up and found that he was in his room again, tucked into bed, and that it was morning. "Oh, man, I need to stop sleeping on an empty stomach. I had such a weird dream," he muttered. He looked around his room to find that 2 more futons were laid out and that the strange girls from yesterday were passed out on them, in their PJs as well. Naruto immediately sequestered himself in the bathroom as he tried to sort all of this out. It was after a few moments of thinking that he heard them at the door. "Hey, Naruto," Kurumi asked, knocking on the door. "Come on out," Tsubasa called out to him. Excuse me, but are you still upset about last night?" Ran asked gently. "Don't worry about it. We were animals before we became angels. Tsubasa explained. What the hell is going on with those three? First they're angels, now they were animals. Just what are they? He wondered. Just then, there was a knock at his door. I'll get it, Tsubasa chirped as she bounced over to the door. At the door, there was an Anbu standing there and she looked confused. I didn't get the wrong apartment, did I? Naruto Uzumaki lives here, she asked. Oh, Naruto-kun. He's in the bathroom. What's up? She asked. He needs to see the Hokage immediately. The cat-masked Anbu relayed her instructions and then vanished in a flurry of leaves, leaving behind a trio of impressed angels. That was kinda neat, Nano. Kurumi piped up. I know. Ran added as she went to relay the message. Naruto-kun. The Hokage needs to see you. She told him. Naruto sighed as he got up and left the bathroom, slipping on a surprisingly clean and mended jumpsuit. Did you guys do this? He asked them. Uh-huh. Ran answered. Nice. He whispered as he turned to them. Well you should probably go home now. He told them. But, if you mean our home. Ran began. I think the spirit world is a little bit different from home. Tsubasa finished. Besides, if we weren't here, you'd run right smack into bad luck again. Kurumi deadpanned. Naruto just shook his head. Anyway, everyone has to leave before I get back. Thanks for all that you did before, though. He replied as he left for Hokage Tower. The girls all giggled to each other as they decided to shadow him through the village. Konoha streets. Naruto was walking along to the tower when he noticed that he was being tailed by someone. He looked back and noticed a shock of red hair poking out from behind a sign. He groaned out, frustrated. He decided to lose them, so he leapt onto the rooftops and continued from there. Whoa, he's pretty fast, Tsubasa remarked. Now how are we gonna follow him? Kurumi whined. Ran scanned the skyline and spotted a tall tower at the center of the village with the kanji for fire on it. That has to be where he's headed. Let's go, she told them as they took off for the tower as well. Naruto passed by a bridge that spanned a small creek as the girls made to follow him, but stopped to catch their breath. Man, he's really fast, Tsubasa commented in between gasps of air. He sure lost us pretty fast. Kurumi added. If only he could dump his bad luck just as quickly. Tsubasa said as she looked back at Ran only to find that she was petrified with fear. Ran, what's wrong, Nano? Kurumi asked. Something about the way she was swaying wasn't right. Ran slumped to her knees and her head drooped. I'm afraid of water, she admitted. Tsubasa was about to ask why, but the answer hit her quickly. It's because of your past life, isn't it? She asked gently. Ran simply nodded her head in acknowledgement. What were you in your past life? Tsubasa asked again, looking for more pieces to the puzzle. I was a goldfish, Ran told them silently, but they were unable to hear her. What? We couldn't hear you, Nano. Kurumi asked. A goldfish, she repeated louder this time. What? They asked at the same time, puzzled. Ran continued on to explain. One day, while my master was out, some mean people came into his room and poured salt into my bowl. I didn't even get to say goodbye to my master. He would talk and talk with me, even though I couldn't reply to him. I loved him so much. Ran explained to them, but Tsubasa stopped her. Don't try to remember anymore, Ran. He sounds like a wonderful master, like mine was. She replied. Ran shook off her fear and set herself straight again. I'm fine now. Thank you. That's okay, Nano. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Kurumi confided with a smile. Hey, me, too, Tsubasa added. The three girls caught their breath and continued onto the tower. Finally, Kurumi caught sight of their errant ward climbing the steps up to the Hokage's office. There's Naruto, Nano, Kurumi exclaimed, pointing him out. Come on, girls. Let's go. Ran rallied them as she and Kurumi ran onward. Tsubasa had hung back for a moment to stare nervously at how the staircase that led up to the Hokage's office wrapped around the outside of the building. Tsubasa. Come on, let's go. Ran shouted from the other side of the bridge. Tsubasa reluctantly followed them. Hokage Tower. Naruto walked up to the door to Tsunade's office and pushed it open in his usual manner. "Oi, Ba-chan, what's up?" Naruto asked of his leader and fellow blonde. It's useless to reprimand him for something he's been doing for years. She sighed in defeat as she addressed the young genin. "Naruto, listen, I've been kind of worried about you lately. Kakashi tells me that you constantly give your team the cold shoulder, especially Sasuke and Sakura. This just isn't like you. Is there something wrong, kiddo?" The confused woman asked of him with honest concern. Naruto grimaced at the mention of his so-called team. They were the last people he wanted to talk about, but he couldn't give her the same treatment. He relented and told her, "I guess I'm just tired. I mean, I'm always doing all of the work on that team, but they treat me like a disease. I even brought you back to heal the Tem and Tem Sensei, but they still don't believe me. Do you remember what I told you on our way back to the village?" Naruto replied with a question of his own. Tsunade sighed once again as she remembered what she'd both heard and seen. She tailed Team 7 one day and saw what Naruto was talking about. They treated him like a burden, even though he almost always handled things himself. Ever since she took up the office and from old files, every client outside of the village had a glowing opinion of the young blonde. Her old friend Joriki, boss of the Wasabi clan from Port Dagarashi, had nothing but praise for the boy, admitting that he would be watching his career with great interest. Suna expressed interest in him due to how he defeated and changed their Jinchuriki from a cold-blooded monster to a calm and caring person. The countries of Wave and Snow declared him a national hero, with Wave naming their bridge after him and Princess Koyuki of Snow requesting to buy him from Konoha to be her personal bodyguard for an absurd amount of money, but she had to decline. He was Konoha's ace in the hole against any enemy Jinchuriki as well as the Yondaime's legacy. Also, even if she wouldn't admit to it, she didn't want him to leave because she would miss him too much, leaving an empty gap in her life once again. He truly is one of the most underappreciated people I've ever met. The dead last, top rookie and Kunoichi combo has been a real curse. I should really consider changing that around. She mused as she replied to Naruto's question. Yes, I do remember that. I wish there was something I could do about it, but since you didn't make Chunin and there aren't any available slots open on the other teams, my hands are tied. Just hang in there, kiddo. With how you performed at the last exams, you're a shoo-in to get promoted next time. Tsunade comforted, but there was still something bothering him. She'd known him long enough, as well as paid attention to his habits, to know when something was wrong. Just as Naruto was making to leave, Tsunade stopped him again. "Naru-chan, wait," she called out, using a private name reserved only for him. "Hi," he asked. "There's something else, isn't there? You can tell me," she told him. He knew he could confide in her, Shizune and surprisingly Jiraiya about anything, which was why they knew so much about him in the first place. "Well, yeah, there is. You see," he started as he explained the past 24 hours in great detail. Tsunade was confused, I guess would be the best way to put it. These three unknown girls who just showed up out of the blue without the Anbu or anyone else finding them first, but instead of any hostile or malicious actions, they clean his apartment, do his laundry, and cook dinner. Man, when this brat gets lucky, he gets lucky. There was no halfway with this kid. Damn, I really need to drag this kid to a casino with me. Damn that Shizune. That's not a good example to set for Naruto-chan. Screw that. He gets worse from that old pervert Jiraiya. She thought. Naruto wasn't lacking in adult guidance. It was just the actual good, wholesome guidance he was lacking. His primary sensei was one of the biggest, most incorrigible perverts the world has ever and will ever see. Shizune was the biggest worrywart Tsunade had ever known. An ulcer and a breakdown is only the beginning of her problems. Then there's Tsunade herself, one of the worst winos and gamblers in shinobi history. Oh yeah, real good role models. Before we get too far off track, let's get back to the issue at hand. Well, this doesn't sound too bad. Tsunade mused aloud. It's freaky. They came out of nowhere and claimed that they're freaking angels or animals, or some crap like that. He yelled, although he had to admit that they were pretty cute and they did share some of the same names as some of his beloved pets. Wait, what? What? They also said they were angels and animals. It can't be, he thought as he zoned out. Hey, kiddo, you in there? The beautiful blonde asked as she shook his shoulder. She knew from the haunted look in his eyes there was more to it than just that. Yeah, I'm here, Naruto answered shakily, confirming her suspicions. Are you sure that's everything, Naru-chan? You know you can tell me anything. She told him softly and comfortingly. It was at times like this he viewed the beautiful Sannin as his mother, a figure in his life that he desperately needed. He finally broke down and told her about his past, something that only Hana Inuzuka and old Sarutobi himself knew the whole story about. She was happy that he trusted her enough to open himself up to her like this, but she was also enraged that the village just couldn't let this boy be. Even worse, they took it out on defenseless animals, the only friends that Naruto's ever known. To do this to him and those poor animals was truly monstrous. Even Sakura, who had come to her begging for training, had a hand in this. Now, her chances of an apprenticeship had gone up in smoke. No way in hell am I taking that little bitch on as a student. Someone who would do such a thing doesn't deserve to learn my secrets. She seethed with anger. The mighty Sannin found herself shedding a few tears at his tale. I'm sorry, for what it's worth, she told him as she embraced him tightly. She could tell that this was a very sore subject for him, even more so than the Kyuubi. He was also stuck on a team with two of the murderers of his friends. She now understood why he distrusted them so much and why he wanted to leave the team so badly. Even his crush on the pink-haired girl was a farce. He was cordial and nice to them, but beyond that, she couldn't blame him for not wanting to associate with them. It's all right, Tsunade-chan. Listen, if you have the time, I'll take you there and introduce you to my friends. He told her with a sad smile. She nodded her head as she stood up and placed her hand on his shoulder, flickering them to where his true friends rest in peace, the Garden of Tears. On the other side of the door, the three girls heard everything and were stunned. Were they indeed serving the master that showed them such loving care all those years ago? They had to know, so they bolted out of the tower, bound for Hokage Monument. Garden of Tears. They appeared atop of the Yondaime's head on the monument and walked slightly over to the side. Tsunade could tell that there was a genjutsu barrier up over a small patch of the forest, but it was very faint. Only a shinobi on par with herself or Jiraiya could notice it, and only from very close by, and had to have been set up by a master. Naru-chan, did sensei set this up for you? She asked. Naruto responded by weaving through a set of hand seals and biting his thumb for the blood to deactivate the genjutsu barrier. The tree line shimmered and faded away to reveal the most beautiful meadow Tsunade had ever seen. Around the central cherry blossom tree, she saw the 12 markers with the names of his loved ones inscribed on them, grave markers. Hey guys, it's me again. I just wanted to introduce someone special. Her name is Tsunade and she's become like a mother to me, and I just wanted her to meet you all. He said aloud to the 12 markers. She could almost feel as if something was watching them, something intangible and spiritual about this place. To the boy she'd come to know and love, this was hallowed ground, a sort of holy place and refuge for him. It was this place that knows of his entire life, all of his fears, worries, and joys. He was even more broken than she ever was, but this remarkable boy was so strong. Not for the first time, she felt truly proud of him. Behind them, the three angels were huffing and puffing from their run up the mountain to catch up to them. They finally made it up the mountain as Kurumi followed his scent over to the special place. The view took their breath away, and from a distance, they spotted the markers that bore their names. Tsunade noticed them coming up from behind and whipped around quickly. Who are you? What are you doing here? She demanded. You three again. I thought I told you to go home. Naruto said, his bangs shadowing his eyes. But, we aren't lying to you, Nano. We can prove it. Kurumi exclaimed as she and the other two stood by their graves and began to glow, their angelic robes shimmering into existence. Naruto and Tsunade were stunned and floored by what they were seeing. She knew that this was no genjutsu or trick, as she felt no chakra. This was real. Master. Don't you remember me? I'm Kurumi, the hamster. You found me after I escaped from my cage and took me in. I loved you so much, Nano. She told him happily, touched that he still remembered them all so fondly. I'm Tsubasa, the parakeet. I hurt my wing, but you took such good care of me. She told him of herself, opening up the floodgates of his memories even more. And I am Ran, the goldfish. You won me at a festival and would always talk with me, even though I couldn't reply. You also took such good care of me and I missed you so much. She told him, tears in their eyes. Naruto stood ramrod straight. It is them. They came back. Please Kami, let this be true. I missed them all so much. He thought, his eyes screwed shut as he tried and failed to stop his tears from flowing freely as they rushed in to embrace him. He hoped that this wasn't all just a dream, that he wouldn't just wake up alone again, like so many wonderful dreams had ended. Are you, really back? To stay with me? He asked, his voice small and light. Yes, we are. We've come home to you, Master. We will never leave your side again. Ran answered him as she and her sister angels embraced him with their own arms for the first time. With all of the stress finally falling away from him, he succumbed to sleep on the spot. He hadn't had a good night's rest in many years, maybe this would finally help him recover. Tsunade sat off to the side, smiling. That boy has a lot of positive karma that needed repaying somehow, and I guess that this is a start. If he believes them, that's good enough for me. She surmised as she stood up and walked over to the group. The girls didn't know who she was, as she wasn't in their master's life yet when they died. Ma'am, who are you? Ran asked. She could guess that she was special to her master somehow. If she wasn't then she wouldn't be here. My name is Tsunade and I am the leader of this village, the Godime Hokage. She answered with a easy grin. What are you to master, anyhow? Tsubasa asked, cutting right to the point. This woman was indeed beautiful, but a bit too old for her master in her opinion. I am his Hokage, leader, and commander. But, she paused, getting in closer to the three girls. Don't tell anyone this, but I see him, as a son. The child I never had the chance to have, but always wanted. She explained to them. It all made perfect sense once the blonde woman finished her explanation of her relationship with the boy. During the conversation, Tsubasa noticed that she said Godime Hokage. When she and the other angels were alive, they remembered a kindly old man being the Hokage, the Sandame Hokage. Sarutobi sensei was my teacher when I was Naru-chan's age and he was the Sandame Hokage up until the invasion a couple of months ago. You see, he fought with and was killed by a traitor named Orochimaru, but managed to repel him and his forces. Naru-chan and my old teammate, Jiraiya, were sent out to find me and ask me to become the next Hokage. Tsunade said as she told them about when she first met their master, the bet that was made, the fight with Orochimaru, and finally, their return to the village. All three girls only knew what went on in his life up to when they died, which was when Naruto was still very young. Now, this newer Naruto was like a hero out of a storybook. A hero in every sense of the word. They were filled with an even deeper sense of pride in him, but one thing still bothered them. What was it that made the people in this village hate him so much, save for only a small handful of people? Tsunade-san, why do people seem to hate him so much? He's a wonderful person, Ran asked, speaking for the other two angels who nodded to the affirmative. No, that is his secret to tell, not mine. Sorry, girls. The beautiful Hokage told them with a sad smile. The girls looked like they were going to protest, but a glance from Ran made them back down. We understand. This secret must be very painful if he doesn't want to speak of it to anyone. But we want him to know that we wouldn't care, as he is the master that cared for us in our past lives and that we love him very much. The red-haired girl told Tsunade, making the mighty Kunoichi smile. Naruto. Kami must really be trying to make things up to you. I'm happy for you and I will not let this village ruin this for you. Tsunade vowed as Naruto came around again. Naruto groaned as he came around. He looked around and saw the 3 girls. You are real. He cheered as he stood up again. It was starting to get dark out as Tsunade needed to get back to her office and finish some paperwork. Naruto noticed that she was pressed for time and asked why she didn't use Kage Bunshin to do the work. Tsunade's mood lightened considerably as she cheerily flickered all of them to her office, made the clones and instructed them about the paperwork, and decided to call it a night. The group bound for Ichiraku Ramen to get some dinner. Along the way, Naruto let out a relieved sigh. Things were finally looking up. Something told him that things were going to be just fine. Ichiraku Ramen. Tsunade and her party appeared in a flurry of leaves in front of the ramen stand, surprising many of the people around them that the Hokage herself and 3 unknown yet cute girls were with the Kyuubi child, with Tsunade placing her hand on his shoulder as they walked into the stand. As he lifted the curtain, Tsuki Ichiraku and his daughter Ayame turned around to greet their customers when she saw 2 familiar heads of blonde hair. Hey there, Naruto-kun, Tsunade-sama. Strange weather lately, huh? She greeted and referred to the rain that seemed to come out of nowhere the previous day and how today it looked like it never rained. Yeah, tell me about it. I got caught out in it while training. Naruto grumbled. Ayame was about to take their orders when she noticed that they weren't alone. Oh, who are your new friends, Naruto-kun? Girlfriends, maybe. Ayame teased her pseudo-little brother. What? Ayame Oneken. Naruto yelled in embarrassment, much to the amusement of Tsunade and the girls, who took it upon themselves to make their own introductions. I am Ran. Pleased to meet you, Ayame-san. Ran said pleasantly. Hey there, I'm Tsubasa. The aqua-green-haired girl greeted happily. I'm Kurumi. Where's that wonderful smell coming from, Nano? The hamster-like girl chirped, sniffing the air intently. Ayame chuckled lightly. I'm Ayame Ichiraku and that's my dad in the back. We run and own this stand and Naruto-kun here has been our best customer for years. So, what'll your orders be? She asked. Tonkatsu ramen for me. Tsunade ordered. Miso pork. Naruto chirped. Same as Naruto-kun, actually. Ran replied. Same here. Tsubasa seconded. Ditto, Nano. Biggest one you've got. Kurumi called out in a chipper voice. Alrightly then, Dad. 1 tonkatsu and 4 miso pork. Ayame yelled into the kitchen. Soon the orders were ready and the ramen was brought out by Tsuki, who introduced himself to Naruto's new friends. So, these pretty young ladies are friends of yours, Naruto. I knew you had potential, kiddo. Tsuki barked with laughter, clapping the boy he considered a nephew on the back. Naruto blushed heavily at the thought of any one of them being his girlfriend, and identical blush on the girls showed that they weren't averse to the idea, either. His normal, active personality fit Tsubasa like a glove, his appetite could match Kurumi's, and he was prone to bashful moments, similar to Ran. The rest of the meal passed with more conversation and Tsunade explaining the situation in the village since much had changed since they had transmigrated. They were sad to hear that the kind old man that was the Hokage had passed away, but Tsunade was proving to be very accommodating. Ever since old Sarutobi died and since she found that he was her godson, she had been holding on to his inheritance, or what was left of it after the council taxed the heart and soul out of it. The house, a sizable fortune, Minato's and Kushina's libraries, and some information on the Uzumaki remained. Most of the furniture from within the home had been taken as memorabilia, as had the pictures of the former occupants. All that remained was sealed within a large scroll that sat next to the forbidden scroll with a blood seal upon it so that only the current Hokage and Naruto himself could open it. It was the only way to safeguard what lit he had left. The time had come to give him the house. No better time like the present. Tsunade mused. Say, Naru-chan, since these girls are here to stay, where will they stay? Your small apartment can barely house you alone, let alone 3 more people. She asked him. Naruto paused at the mention of living conditions. He truly hadn't thought about that. Damn, Ba-chan has a good point. That little shack is barely big enough for me as it is and I can't make the girls cram themselves in there. Sigh, I'll just have to pull in more D ranks using my clones to raise more money for a bigger apartment. The diminutive blonde shinobi thought to himself. Tsunade, who prided herself on being one of the only people that was able to tell what Naruto was really thinking, could tell what he was worried about. He felt that he would need to work at least 4 times harder than he already does. He practically carries his team and nearly trains himself into a coma daily. The poor kid would work himself to death if I let him, not that his team or sensei would really care. I don't know where he thinks he'd find the energy to pull in more missions to finance a new apartment, but I won't let him do this alone. It's time he got another part of his inheritance. He's more than earned it. Tsunade mused. He really did deserve more than what he got in life thus far, especially since the council, in all of their infinite wisdom, decided to cut off his stipend in the interest of drawing funds to rebuild the village. She checked the register on a hunch and discovered that his stipend was the only one cut off. I already know what you're thinking, Naru-chan. I already found you a good place next to my own, and before you worry about the payment for it, you'll just do some extra work for me in the office from time to time. I'll pay the rent, and we'll consider it an even exchange. That way, we'll both hold our heads up and you can think of it as extra training to become Hokage. She proposed. She knew he wouldn't accept it willy-nilly. His work ethic wouldn't allow him to without earning it somehow. The Sandame had him doing errands for him to earn his stipend, and he knew more about that office than she even would. Thanks, Tsunade-kasen. He thanked her, whispering the final part so that only she could hear him. She was happy to hear him refer to her as Mama Tsunade. It beat the hell out of Grandma, even though it was a front. The group then paid for their tabs, or tried. Chuki wouldn't hear of it, explaining that since he brought in some new customers, their meal was on the house tonight. Tsunade then took Naruto by the place that she told him about. The boy was in awe of the sheer size of the place, since the place he'd been diving in was so small and cramped. He was so excited that he began to jump and dance around like he used to, making Tsunade smile. Thank you, Tsunade-kachen. He cheered as he wrapped her in a tight hug that left her gasping for breath as he bolted off for home. Kushina-chan, I really love your little boy, like he was my very own. I don't mean to take him from you, but I promise that from here on out, I'll do everything in my power to help him and protect him from his enemies here in this village. Tsunade vowed as she locked up and left for home for the night. Naruto's apartment complex. Naruto bolted into the apartment to tell the girls the good news to find another girl there. She had auburn hair that is done in a manner that reminded him of a cat's ears, and she had teal eyes that hid behind glasses. She was arguing with the other 3 girls over something when she noticed him walk through the door. Almost as if she teleported, she tackled him with a loving embrace. Master Naruto, I missed you, she cried as she nuzzled her cheek against his, again strangely similar to a cat. Wah, who, when, was all the surprised blonde could get out until Tsubasa answered him. Well, the goddess decided that we weren't enough, so she sent Tamami here to assist us. The bird girl said sourly, folding her arms akimbo with a slight scowl. Ran and Kurumi didn't look too happy, either, with how affectionate Tamami was being. Wait, Tamami. She's back. Naruto caught her name and remembered her. I missed you too, Tamami-chan. He told the cat girl as he embraced her back. So, what did Miss Tsunade want to talk to you about? Ran asked, garnering a smile from him. She wanted to show me an actual house near where she and Shizune-chan live. In exchange for doing some extra work in her office, she'll give us the house fair and square. He yelled in excitement, the other girls gasping in surprise. You mean, a bigger house? That's wonderful. Tsubasa cheered. Yeah, she's so nice, Nano. Kurumi chimed in. This will solve our lodging problem in one go. I really need to meet her and say thank you. Tamami added. So, when do we move in? Ran asked. Next week. Let's get packing. He cheered until a knock at the door. Coming. He yelled as he ran to the door and opened it to reveal his sensei, Kakashi. Naruto. I just came by to wonder why you weren't at team training this morning. He demanded with a scowl visible underneath his mask. I was with Tsunade Bachan this morning. She had something she wanted to talk to me about. he answered, his hand over his seal. Kakashi got the hint. Next time, tell me first, he ordered, but before disappearing, he noticed that he wasn't alone. Who's in there with you? He asked suspiciously. Why does it matter? Is it so strange to you that I might actually have company? Naruto shot back. He couldn't have Kakashi or his teammates finding out about the girls, not yet. Don't disrespect me, young man. As your sensei, I need to know about anyone you might associate with, like that troublemaker Anko. I told you not to hang around her. Kakashi scolded. So freaking what? I hang around with Anko-ne because she's actually nice to me, treats me like a person, and she'll explain things to me that you won't. Also, since when were you so concerned for my well-being? Naruto countered. I can see I won't get anywhere with you, just be at training on time next time. The copy nin ordered as he vanished in a puff of smoke. Who was that? Tsubasa asked, eyebrow raised. That was my sensei, Kakashi Hatake. Naruto told them, air quoting the sensei part. They could tell that this person wasn't really in his good graces. I take it he's kind of a jerk, huh? Tamami asked. That's an understatement, he muttered before getting back to the subject they were on before, the new house. A few days later, the girls woke up in the morning to find that Naruto had already left for training with his team. But, Master didn't even have breakfast yet. Tamami exclaimed. I know, so let's take him some to wherever he is, Nano. Kurumi suggested. The girls quickly cooked up a small breakfast much to Kurumi's disappointment, and were out the door with a full bento box for their beloved master. The girls realized that they didn't know where training ground number 7 was, so they asked the first person they saw, a girl with a blonde ponytail that was walking out of a flower shop. Training ground number 7. It's down that way, Ino told the group of girls as they thanked her as they ran off. As they left, she noticed that they had a large bento box with them and she was adding 2 and 2 together, but somehow got 5 instead. Wait a minute, they're carrying a bento to Sasuke-kun's training ground. They can't be going there for that baka Naruto, so they're more fangirls. This can't be good. A couple of them are older and prettier than me, she yelled as she tore off out of the shop after them. Training ground number 7. Naruto was locked in a sparring match against Sasuke, who was using his Sharingan to read his every move and intercept him. The match was set up for taijutsu only, so that meant that Naruto couldn't use his Kage Bunshin to make up for what he was lacking in. It was true that he was training himself into the ground when not with his team and that Jiraiya showed him a trick or tip every time he was in town, but he just didn't get the constant instructions Sasuke got, and Jiraiya made Naruto figure things out for himself, saying that he would be better for it if he did. His weight training was going along nicely, and even though he wasn't nearly as fast as Lee, he was still plenty quick and he could make stuff up on the fly. Not having a real style to use made him hard to predict, even for the Sharingan, not to mention that he had so much chakra and it was so dense, he made Sasuke's vision hazy. Kakashi noticed that and wouldn't have his favorite losing due to something like that. He ordered Naruto to put on chakra-suppressing bracers to keep his chakra from messing up the Sharingan. Once he did that, Sasuke had no trouble tracking him and beat him soundly. Che, you're such a loser, Sasuke drawled as he spun on his heel and strutted off to sit down and brood some more, his little cheerleader right on his heels, while Kakashi gave a disgusted sigh. What on earth was that, Naruto? Are you even trying? He scolded. You try fighting the Temm's Sharingan with your chakra sealed and see how you do. Naruto muttered. Don't talk back to me. I don't think your punishment was heavy enough if you still have the energy to have such a smart mouth. Go do more laps around the training area. I have actual students to teach. Kakashi told him callously as he turned to go pamper the emo more. Stupid asshole. Naruto growled as he got started on his laps. Things have been going from bad to worse since they returned from the mission in Tea Country. Sasuke was even more of a unbearable shithead. Sakura was more of a bitch than ever before, while Kakashi snubbed and punished him at any given opportunity. The idea of making Chunin and leaving this god-forsaken team sound like paradise to him. Soon, a quartet of girls arrived in the clearing and approached the rest of Team 7. Sakura eyed them nastily, thinking them to be more fangirls. Girls, you'll have to wait until we're done here to give Sasuke-kun his gifts. Kakashi said negligently without even looking up from his book. Yeah, you skanks get lost. Sasuke-kun is mine. Sakura, the rabid pink pitbull, snarled, earning a frown from Tsubasa. Who said we were here for that guy? We want to see Naruto-kun. The aquamarine-haired girl shot back. Yes, may we please speak with him? We want to give him this bento since he didn't eat breakfast this morning. Ran added in, trying to calm tempers. This Sakura girl was making it really hard to remain calm. Something about her just rubbed her the wrong way. PSH. Who would want anything to do with that loser? Sasuke scoffed. A loser, huh? Would a loser have saved your butt countless times? Tamami retorted. The other girls told her of Naruto's latest missions and of his feats and bravery. She loved her master before, but now he was like a hero in a fairy tale. WHO told you that. WHO. No one was supposed to know. Sasuke snarled as he glared death at the girl, his dirty secret out in the open. Tsubasa pulled Tamami behind her to protect her from anything Sasuke may try. She was a rarity among guardian angels in the fact that she was trained to fight to a high degree and had access to her kind's own form of power, Reiki or spiritual energy, to augment her performance. The goddess wanted to make sure that the girls wouldn't be helpless down there, so all of them were at least proficient at fighting hand to hand in addition to their own spells, but a few actually specialized in it and she was one of them. Sasuke snarled at the girl who blocked her path. Move. No. She is my sister, so I won't let you touch her. Besides, she's right. Naruto-kun is more than you could ever hope to be. Tsubasa shot back as she assumed her unarmed combat form, which was crane-style kung fu. How dare you insult Sasuke-kun? Sakura screeched as she threw herself at Tsubasa. She swooped in low and swept the pink-haired, horribly offensive joke of a kunoichi off of her feet and finished her with a palm strike to her solar plexus, knocking the wind from her and incapacitating her easily all in one solid and fluid movement. She took Sakura out with ease. This girl is more than she seems. On top of that, she knows Naruto and addresses him in a familiar manner. Kakashi thought as he continued to watch. Sasuke took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack and nailed her in the back with a roundhouse kick, knocking her unconscious with a bleeding head injury as he advanced on her. He picked her up by the collar and cocked his fist back to finish her off, but an orange blur sent him flying back into a tree. I knew you were a coward, but this is going too far. Naruto snarled as wisps of crimson were beginning to be seen around him. The bracers that Kakashi had slapped on him were actually burning away to nothing as a wave of malevolent anger swept over the offending party. Naruto was now setting the downed girl down gently while Ran worked on her injuries. Take care of her, Naruto asked of Ran. I'll do whatever I can, Naruto-kun. Ran answered. Ran was another type of angel. She was a medic and healer more than a combatant. Naruto, what do you think you're doing? Kakashi demanded harshly. Protecting a friend. Something you and these two jerks wouldn't understand. Naruto shot back at him. Stand down and stop using that. Thing's power right now, he ordered. Shut up, Hitaki. I was trained to use this power by my real sensei. He was the one that taught me the Rasengan. Naruto growled at him as he turned to the girls. Kakashi took a moment to process that information. Only one person could have taught him that. Jiraiya, he thought. He is not your sensei, I am. Stop wasting Jiraiya-sama's time and I will not have you tarnishing the memory of the Yondaime with you using his jutsu. I forbid you from ever using it again. He ordered again. Piss off, Tem. He retorted as he loaded Tsubasa on his back, made a squad of clones to do the same with the other girls, and took off, glad that Tsubasa was unconscious for this or she would freak out. Kakashi would have gone after him, but went to check on his favored student and only student in his mind. Naruto is becoming too powerful. I didn't even see him move when he took out Sasuke, and due to those seals I put on him, I couldn't sense him. I need to do something. He thought as he made a clone to carry Sakura and picked up Sasuke, taking them to the hospital. In the bushes nearby, Ino had seen the whole thing and was just weirded out by it. She couldn't wrap her mind around anyone actually admitting to talking to Naruto, let alone wanting to be around him. She left the training ground comforted by the fact that they didn't seem to be competition. Hokage's office. Tsunade had just finished with another huge stack of paperwork and now she was reach for her sake stash so she could take a quick tug while Shizune wasn't around. She was busy enjoying the peace and was planning on helping Naruto move, or at least hiring a genin team to help him and be there for a small party when the door flew open unceremoniously. "What the hell?" she yelled, ready to dispense some pain when she saw who it was. It was Naruto and the girls, but what worried her was the fact that Tsubasa was unconscious on Naruto's back and said boy was both worried and pissed. "What happened?" she nearly demanded. If someone found out about them and tried to attack them, she'd show no mercy. Naruto explained what had happened at the training ground earlier with the girls filling in the rest as Naruto wasn't there for all of it. By the end of the explanation, Tsunade was ready to strangle Team 7, but kept her priorities in sight. "Give her to me. I'll take over," Suan commanded, pointing to her couch. Without hesitating, Naruto set her down carefully on the couch and kept the girls back. Tsunade noticed that her head wound from when she hit the tree was already healed and she was just suffering from the concussion. "Who healed this? This is excellent work," Tsunade murmured in appreciation. "That would be me, Lady Tsunade." Ran answered calmly as she stepped forward. "Tell me, what other kinds of specialties do you angels have besides healing and fighters?" Tsunade asked of the eldest angel. "Well, as you now know, Tsubasa-chan is a fighter and I am a healer. Kurumi-chan is a tracker and Tamami-chan is a caster, and all three are of the intermediate rank and I am of the senior rank. Angels climb in rank according to ability and their age, however, it is possible for a young angel to advance to the senior rank early if she the goddess believes she is ready." Ran replied. "This goddess, she's your leader, right?" Naruto asked. "Yes, she is the goddess of the animal spirits and the guardian angels, Nano. She was the one that gave us the chance to return to you, Naruto-kun. She told us that she had been watching your life since the day you were born and decided that you earned the right to have us return to him since you cared for us more than life itself." Kurumi said, fielding the response this time. Tsunade processed this new information as they awaited the feisty bird girl's reawakening. They aren't so helpless after all. That's very good for Naruto. I actually kind of proud of this girl for taking that Haruno girl to the cleaners like she did. I sounds like she might be at least high genin with her fighting if she took Pinky apart so easily and doesn't play around if she did it so quickly. This girl, Ran, sounds like the kind of girl I could take as my apprentice. She has the talent, a kind and nurturing nature, and the drive to learn. However, can they use chakra? She wondered. For the healing that you used. Did you use chakra to heal her? Tsunade requested again. No. We angels come from a spiritual realm and as such, we use spiritual energies, or Reiki. We use it the same way that you use chakra, I believe. Ran answered. That would make sense. Then I can teach you, after all. Tsunade smirked at the crimson-haired girl. Teach me. Why and what? Ran asked, puzzled. My girl. I'm not only the Hokage because I'm strong but I'm also a medic. Possibly the best in the world, and I've been looking for another apprentice for some time now. My assistant, Shizune, was my first student, but she can hold her own now and she's nearly as good as me. If you all like, I could teach you how to defend yourselves better. Tsunade offered. The girls were all stunned. From what they learned of the woman before them, she was a legendary kunoichi and healer. And she was offering to help teach them the skills they needed to survive in this harsh, unforgiving world and to better help their master. However, they felt that they needed to defer to their master for permission. I don't mind at all. That'll be kinda cool. Ba-chan's really tough and she cleaned my clock with only a flick of her fingers. Naruto told them with a wide grin, unashamed that she beat him so easily. Good. Now, when Naruto helps me around the office, you all can come and we'll do the training then, okay? The blonde Hokage instructed. Hi, Tsunade-sensei. The three conscious girls chimed enthusiastically, rousing their sister from her concussion. Yuage. What hit me? Tsubasa asked groggily. A cowardly Tem, that's who. Naruto fumed as he remembered Sasuke's little sneak attack. That jerk. Just wait till I see him again. Tsubasa growled, nursing a small goose egg on her head while she visualized the various ways she could educate said jerk on why attacking her was a bad idea. She was looking around at everyone else and got curious. What did I miss? She asked, to which the rest of the girls filled her in on what Suand asked. Tsubasa knew that the woman was strong, but wanted to see for herself what she could do. She was always more of a, put your money where your mouth is, type of person. Tsunade just chuckled and picked up a small bar of solid steel and bent it like it was made of wax. Next, she dragged them all outside of the tower and punched the ground, making them all fall on their asses in the crater she made herself. Wow, I believe you now, Tsubasa said in a vacant tone, much to Tsunade's amusement. I kind of like this girl, she thought as she stretched her back again, showing off her impressive figure unintentionally, making the girls eye their own chests with a sigh. Ha ha, don't worry, you girls still have time to grow. She chuckled good-naturedly, easing their embarrassment. Naruto was a little lost in what they were talking about and asked what was so funny. The response he got from his pseudo mother figure made him blush from his toes to the very tips of his wild blonde hair. Oh my, I didn't know you were such a pervert, Naru-chan. Maybe Jiraiya's beginning to rub off on you. She teased the boy, who vehemently denied it in a heartbeat. No, I am not like that raging pervert. Naruto defended, jutting out his chin in defiance, causing the Lady Hokage to let out a big belly laugh and the girls to giggle. Tsunade enjoyed moments like this, when she could just forget about having to be the Hokage and just be herself. She loved sharing it with the very people who knew the real her and still loved her for it, like Jiraiya, Naruto, and Shizune. They were her family, and now these girls were being inducted into their small family. It all wound down as they found themselves back inside her office and were preparing to go home when Kakashi and the rest of Team 7 entered the office. What do you want? Tsunade asked in annoyance. Lady Suand, I am tired of Naruto constantly and openly disrespecting my authority. He went out and sought training from Jiraiya without my permission and learned a dangerous jutsu from him that I feel he is too immature to wield. Now, he brought his little friends over to team practice today and that one pointing at Tsubasa maliciously beat up Sakura Haruno without provocation. Kakashi informed the Hokage, who was unmoved by his little speech. Yeah. That green-haired freak insulted Sasuke-kun and sucker-punched me. I don't know why anyone would like that annoying baka or even stick up for him when Sasuke-kun is around. Sakura screeched. Really? Is that so, Haruno? Tsunade asked in a dangerously calm tone as her eyes narrowed. She was really looking forward to dropping the bad news that her bid for apprenticeship died a horrible, fiery death. Yeah, tell her, Sasuke-kun. The rabid mongoose of a female human yelled to her crush. HN. That annoying chick got what was coming to her, but the doby hit me from behind like a coward. HMPH. He knows that he could never beat me and he'll always be a loser. Sasuke sneered. The girls were ready to pound them into paste, but Suand held them back with a glance, and a wink. So, if I refer to the footage from the security camera at the training site, it will jive with what you're telling me. Tsunade asked, knowing that she had them on the ropes. She was counting on them being arrogant enough to try and prove her wrong. They foolishly agreed and the footage played from where Naruto first showed up at the training ground and the events that went on from there, ending at where Naruto left with the girls in tow. Tsunade was not just pissed, but uber pissed, somebody drank all of my sake and wrath of God type of pissed off. So Hatake, you saw fit to not only blatantly lie to me, but also to hinder the development of one of your genin. Just because he was starting to pose a challenge to your favorite and getting training from my pervert of a teammate. Might I remind you that Jiraiya outranks you by far and he has the right to train whomever he sees fit and he can teach his apprentice whatever he desires. He saved my life with that jutsu, and just because you have a little conniption about Naruto being the one chosen and not the Uchiha doesn't give you the right to do this to him. Furthermore, he was with me yesterday and we had some important things to discuss, like his future. She drilled into the smug copy nin. Why is it that a mere genin, the dead last of all genin, is so important? He questioned. He has been the ward of the Hokage since birth, passed down from Sarutobi-sensei to me, and I take it very seriously. He was the one that brought me back here to heal yours and the Uchiha brats' sorry asses in the first place and take over this place as the Hokage. She snarled in response. No way was she going to let this little one-eyed pissant belly her around. So, he's still a little loser, and why haven't you made me your apprentice yet? I need to impress Sasuke-kun. Sakura butted in rudely. Oh ho, I'm gonna enjoy this. Tsunade thought wickedly. You, as my apprentice? This has to be some kind of really bad, tasteless joke. Why would I want a pathetic, sniveling fangirl associated with my teachings or with me in any way? I already found a worthy apprentice and it's not you. Just the sight of you makes me want to vomit. Tsunade bellowed at the disrespectful girl, making her face scrunch up in fury. Who is she? I'll cave her face in. The she-beast shrieked in fury. I am, Miss Haruno. Ran answered in calm defiance. Ragh. Sakura screamed as she attempted to go Lu Ferrigno on Ran, but she was intercepted by Tsunade herself. That does it. Team 7 has pissed me off for the final time. You are hereby disbanded. Haruno, you and the Uchiha will be going back to the academy to have your attitudes readjusted, and you Hatake are suspended for 6 months. Turn in your headbands before your leave and don't let that door hit you on the way out. She ordered them with finality, flaring her ki at them for added effect. But what about the Dobi? Why isn't he being punished? Sakura stammered out. Why should I go back to the academy when I need to kill my brother and avenge my clan? How dare, Sasuke ranted before Tsunade had him in a vice-like grip. You listen, and you'd better listen good, because I'm only telling you this once. I make the decisions around here, and as to why you are going back and he is not is because he actually tried working with you, but the two of you are just too arrogant for your own good. As for your vengeance, little boy, it'll have to wait. You had responsibilities as an active duty shinobi to serve the village, not yourself. Maybe your time in the academy will help you remember your place, boy. Tsunade snarled at them while tossing the Uchiha out the door like a sack of garbage, the other two scurrying behind him. The council will hear of this. Sasuke threatened. Good. I'll chop them down a peg or two when they crawl in here, too. Tsunade responded. The rest of the room's occupants looked on in sheer awe for the woman's commanding presence. She turned her attention back to them. What? She asked. That was highly impressive, Lady Tsunade. Such a commanding presence. Rand told her with a smile. Yeah, you really put those guys away. Tsubasa added. Hey, I'm free of them now. Naruto asked quietly. Yeah, this pretty much sets you free. For missions, I'll just tack you onto existing teams for now, and you'll be able to work here without any troubles from Hatake or your teammates. When the time comes for the Chunin exams again, I'll find you a team that needs a person and you'll take it with them, but remember to keep up on your training. Understood, she told the young genin, who nodded his head quickly. Naruto could breathe easier now that the weight around his neck called Team 7 was gone. Ever since the girls came about, his luck had changed for the better, and he couldn't wait to see what happened next. At Naruto's apartment, getting ready to move. Naruto was on cloud 9, and understandably so. His former team, if you could call them that, had just been disbanded, with Sasuke and Sakura being shunted back to the academy and Kakashi being suspended, pending a demotion for his blatant favoritism and malicious sabotage of a career. Tsunade really came through for him this time, yet another reason why he loved the woman so much. Now, he was moving out of his crappy old apartment and into the house that Tsunade had picked out for him. The packing process went quickly, as Naruto didn't really have very much to begin with. Within an hour, they were already packed and ready to go, Naruto leaving a full crew of Kage Bunshin behind to clean the apartment from top to bottom and make it inspection ready. Across town, Naruto had just opened the door to the house and he and the girls were in utter awe of how much space there was inside. The house had a total of 7 bedrooms, 4 restrooms, 2 of them with baths in them. The girls were 2 to a room each while Naruto picked one for himself. They would have to go find furnishings, a lot of them, to make the house more comfortable. Maybe since the extra work we'll be doing will pay for the rent, there'll be extra money to make this feel more like home. He thought as he felt his clone's disparis, letting him know that the old apartment was as clean as it could possibly get. Hell, it probably looked 10 times better than most of the other unit in that rinky-dink, podunk complex. That bastard landlord will still find something to bitch about. Naruto grumbled as he unpacked all of his clothes and looked around his room more. He noticed that his room alone was almost the size of his apartment. The same held true for the other rooms in the house, since the house itself was more like a mansion. Man, I must have done something right in a past life, he muttered, referring to his change in luck recently. He went to check on the girls and called them all together so that they could all go out to Ichiraku's together for dinner. In the next day or so, let's all go by the dump to search for furniture. That's where I got most of my stuff, Naruto told the girls, who agreed. That makes good financial sense, master. If it's still serviceable and free, then we'll have found some really good bargains. Tamami noted, being financially minded and savvy. But what about day-to-day expenses? Ran asked. Well, I bet we could find jobs to help out master. Those ninja missions are hard and some of them sound dangerous. We can't let master shoulder all of that strain alone. Tsubasa replied, receiving nods in return. Elsewhere, on a mountaintop not terribly far from Konoha, 3 figures were gathered around a hole that held an egg-like stone inside of it. This stone had the emblem of a dragon on it and it seemed to be bursting with power. The 3 figures around it were looking down at it with all seriousness. The first had on black robes with the kanji for Genbu, glasses, and his long, black hair tied up. The second was tallest by at least a head, had long silver hair that fell over one of his eyes, and was robed in red with the kanji for Suzaku. The last was by far the shortest and had wild platinum blonde hair that was tipped with black, robed in white with the kanji for Byako. Storm clouds were brewing all around them as the wind whipped at their robes, lightning crashing down nearby. Finally, we found it. The tallest one said. Yes, now we can get our revenge on all of the humans for what they did to us animals. They had the nerve to seal the great spirits away inside of themselves to gain power. The shortest snarled. Patience, brothers. We must awaken our big brother at the right time. For right now we must find this Naruto Uzumaki, and free the Kyuubi no Kitsune which has been sealed within him. Then, we can look for the other great animal spirits, kill their containers, and use them to restore our full powers. The middle told the others, who complied with his orders. In a flash of light, the 3 of them vanished as they looked for their target.